the Iran war can be blamed for the spike in the gas prices. Do you believe that that war was done out of an imminent threat and danger? Do you agree with President Trump's actions in Iran?
I 100% agree with Donald Trump's actions as it relates to Iran. Iran is a bully. It goes around saying death to America. You see what they're doing with the Strait of Hormuz right now in the blockade, which is stopping goods and traveling around the globe. And so, yes, they were imminent about to create a nuclear weapon. For our own national interest and for our sovereignty, we need to make sure that that was taken care of, and it was bold action, and I agreed with it.
And how do the people of the 5th Congressional District benefit by U.S. and Israeli involvement in Iran at this particular juncture?
For sure. This goes back to national sovereignty and our safety. And so by taking and approaching Iran the way that President Trump did and making sure that they are not getting weapons, we are safer here at home today because of those actions.
You consider yourself a constitutional lawyer, correct?
That's what I do.
So many conservatives argue for a strict interpretation of the Constitution. Given that Article 1 grants the power of Congress the sole power to declare war, do you believe the War Power Act provides too much leeway for the president to engage in military conflicts without a formal declaration?
I think obviously the role of Congress is to bring accountability to the actions of the executive. And so as it relates, that I believe that the War Powers Act currently allows Congress to step in when the executive branch has been involved in a series of events overseas for a period of time. One thing that we do not need is, and it's Congress's responsibility, is to make sure when we go to war and we're putting our troops in harm's way, that we have a strategy, that we know what we're doing. And with that, we don't need to have any more forever wars. We need to have that strategy with knowing what we're going to do and with objectives that we can get done.
Can you articulate for us what the strategy is of the Trump administration in engaging in this war in Iran?
I think it's safety of the American people and our interests abroad. That's exactly what that is.
Let's talk about the debt limit. You mentioned about federal government spending, and I want to talk a little bit about House Resolution 1, which is the president's signature domestic policy omnibus measure, usually called the One Big Beautiful Bill. It will cost $3.4 trillion over the next 10 years and more than $4 trillion when accounting for additional interest owed on the national debt. This is according to two nonpartisan groups, the Congressional Budget Office and the Joint Committee on Taxation. Would you have voted for the Big Beautiful Bill considering the trillions that will add to the nation's debt?
You know, spending is a very big key that we need to be addressing. You know, right now, our nation spends $1 trillion a year on interest. And so our national debt is a huge issue. We'll be reaching our debt limit again in 2027. It's projected we'll hit $41 trillion. This will be a conversation that will be critical for the next session of Congress. Now, as it relates to the One Big Beautiful Bill, the working families tax cuts, what this has provided is record spending for border security. Over $2 trillion in tax savings for the American citizens and our hardworking families. It has provided, you know, you look at what President Trump has been able to do with limiting the size of government, and there's a lot more to do, but this works in that direction. So yes, the One Big Beautiful Bill, while, you know, is an omnibus bill, and there's a lot to it. And we should be taking things one by one, I believe. But this bill helps America. And that's why we're seeing right now stock markets at record highs. It's because of what the Big Beautiful Bill, the working families tax cut, is doing to our economy. It is working.
Let's talk about what it's doing to possibly the voters and citizens of the 5th Congressional District, which you say you would have voted for H.R. 1. Also had cuts to Medicaid, over $900 billion over 10 years. The 5th Congressional District is one of the most Medicaid-dependent districts in the country. For those who live near you, who work near you, and who play near you, who could lose coverage due to Medicaid reforms, some say at the expense of tax cuts to high earners and big corporations. How do you justify having support for the Big Beautiful Bill?
There's no doubt about it that our people in the 5th Congressional District, we need to make sure that we have access to rural hospitals. That is critical. I have a lot of family that live in Clay County, and a lot of them are older, and they ask questions about, if something happened, would I be able to get to a hospital in time? Those are real concerns.
And what
that
do you
people
tell
have.
them? What do you tell them?
Yeah, I am there that we need to be able to make sure that rural hospitals, there are access to them, that we have physicians available across our district to work with them, that we make sure that there are physicians and patients able to speak with one another and work together, and that there are access to them. And that's what I'll be fighting for, is greater access.
So what does that look like? How do you get greater access if the access has already been undone partly through the big, beautiful bill?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of conversations moving forward in Congress about how we directly impact rural hospitals and patients going forward. And I look forward to being a part of those conversations. But part of that, too, is driven by economics and driven by reimbursement rates as well. And how can we do that on a much better level, whether that is block grants to the states and allow that to work more closely on a more local level. There are better ways that this can be done, and I think those conversations are coming up, and I'd love to be a part of that.
You mentioned just a moment ago about border security. So given the concern about federal government spending and the national debt that we just talked about, how much should be appropriated toward border security, and what would it pay for specifically? What should those dollars do?
Yeah, I go back to our Constitution. What are we mandated to do, right? It is defense of our country, and part of that is border security, making sure that we're enforcing our laws, to making sure that we have immigration that is fair and just and is appropriate for our economy, and making sure that the people that are coming in, that we're creating that is safe for our communities, what is coming across our borders. Because we don't need illicit drugs and fentanyl coming across our borders. We need border security that is providing safety to our people at home here in Eastern Kentucky.
Do you approve how the Trump administration has gone about immigration enforcement in the most recent months?
I 100% agree that if someone has come across this border and they are here illegally, then we need to be utilizing our laws to make sure that they are detained and sent back to where they came from. And that is important for the safety of America.
For those who were in the process of going through immigration courts who were detained and deported, do you support that action?
I believe that it depends on the situation, and there may be some type of constitutional rights that they may have at some point in time. But overall, I agree that if you are here illegally, you need to go back home,
regardless of whether or not you are a violent or non-violent offender.
Again, if you are here illegally, you need to go back home.
Let's talk about the Second Amendment, because I think this is part of also your platform. 4th District Congressman Thomas Massey has presented some ideas on gun rights, and I want to see if some of these you agree with, and maybe you would expand on them. A National Constitutional Carry Act, where you could carry nationally, and that would trump states' restrictions. Letting 18 to 21-year-olds buy handguns from federally licensed gun dealers, and repealing the Gun-Free School Zone Act. Do you support all three of those, or are there any in particular that give you pause?
I think it's common sense that you should be able to buy a handgun if you're 18. I think it's common sense that we should be able to have, if you have a permit, that you should be able to, Kentucky is a constitutional carry state. Not every state is constitutional carry, but if you have a carry permit, you should be able to carry across states. That is common sense, and I believe falls in line with our Second Amendment rights. And so I fully support that.
How about the National Constitutional Carry? I assume that you also support that.
I do support that.
Repealing the Gun-Free School Zone Act. Do you agree that that should be repealed?
I think when we start going into schools, we need to be cognizant to make sure of who is carrying weapons in those schools. And there should be people who are carrying in those schools to be able to protect the safety of others.
Should educators be armed?
I think if they feel like they would like to carry their weapons into the school systems, I think that, an educator, I wouldn't have any problems with them. They're there to protect our schools, protect our students, and if that's one way they can do it, I support it.
Didn't mean to interrupt you, so pardon me. Parental rights, you've mentioned that that's important to you. Define parental rights, if you will, so that we have a clear understanding. And in your view, where do they need strengthening? Where are they weak?
Yeah, sure. So you look at our Constitution, under the 14th Amendment, under due process, we have, states can't intercede with us without due process. It relates to life, liberty, and property. One of those is liberty. Under liberty, you have parental rights. You know, I look at our schools, and parents have the right to direct the upbringing and education of their students. And we're seeing that play on the national stage right now with governments and school boards encroaching on parents' rights as it relates to directing the upbringing of their children. What are they receiving in school? What type of education? What pronouns they're being called? All of that is being, taken advantage of parents, and it's government encroachment. And that's why we need parental rights, and that's why the Constitution provides that under the 14th Amendment of due process.
So what would a federal law look like in your view?
Yeah, well, I think we have the Constitution, and the Constitution provides parental rights that provides all those rights that we have. And so I think the Constitution, we just need to fight to defend our constitutional rights, those rights that were given to us by God. Government should be limited. It should only be there to protect our rights, those same rights given by God.
We've gotten this question from Harry Connors in Barberville, Kentucky. He asked, and I quote, "Why did you decide to run this year without the support of leading Eastern Kentucky Republicans like your mentor, Mike Duncan, instead of waiting on Congressman Rogers to retire?"
Yeah, we spoke earlier about why I got in this race, and there's urgency here in our region. We need a new generation of conservative leaders. The question asked about Mike Duncan specifically. Mike Duncan has been a mentor of mine and to so many others across Eastern Kentucky. I thank him so much for all the opportunities that he's been able to give to me and provide so many others. And so I thank him a lot.
We know that Congressman Rogers sits at some pretty big tables and has a lot of power. And so why should the voters of the 5th Congressional District trade in their seat at the table for a newcomer to Washington? What could you do for them that Congressman Rogers has not, or is maybe, in your view, not willing to do?
So we should thank Congressman Rogers for his 46 years in office. But let's demystify some of the things that are there. So part of that question was about seniority and what Congressman Rogers has brought to the region. We should be fighting to be able to bring federal dollars back to Eastern Kentucky, making sure that it's responsible spending. But let's demystify some of the facts that are there. When you look at the Appropriations Committee, half of the members have been there for 5 years or less. And there's one member who was a freshman member last year who joined on day one as part of the Appropriations Committee. And so I will fight for every single dollar for Eastern Kentucky. I want responsible spending, and I want it done right here at home. And I've already brought money back into our district. As part of the initiatives that I've launched to create educational and career opportunities for our youth, I've been able to bring millions of dollars to work within our schools, to work with our local employers, to create pipelines, create opportunities so that our students can see a future right here at home and be a part of the solution. And this opportunity, why I'm running for office, is because it allows me the opportunity to take what I'm already doing and do even more for Eastern Kentucky, a place that I love and I want to do better for.
You've worked in Washington. What do you view as being broken, and how would you go about fixing it?
Yeah, I mean, I have served in Washington. I have served as a congressional aide. I've been an executive in our nation's government. I've had the opportunity to work with policymakers, to work with federal agencies, to work with leaders in Washington, D.C. I've seen how decisions are made. I know how money moves. I know what it's like to write a bill, to write regulation. Those things I have been able to see firsthand. I've had a firsthand view to be a part of that for our country. And I think those experiences allow me to step in on day one and be ready to be able to navigate and to fight for Eastern Kentucky. And I'll continue to fight to defend our values, to restore accountability to Washington, and to deliver opportunities for our people at home, make sure they have jobs, careers, and a pathway to success.
What does accountability look like? You've said that a couple of times, and I'm not quite sure we're clear on what you mean by that.
Yeah, accountability means that Washington is there for the people, not for anyone else. This seat is not one person's, this seat is the people's. And I'm there to represent the people of Eastern Kentucky. And accountability means making sure that we're spending our money the right way, that we're not recklessly spending our dollars in Washington, D.C. And that's what I'll fight for. Because when we have outsized spending, it's causing inflation. And it's hurting the pocketbooks of the people here at home. And I will fight for the people to make sure that there's tax reform to put more money in their pockets, that there is regulatory reform so that we can have and support small businesses, cut the red tape to make sure that we're unleashing American energy. And I want to promote something, which is we need to take opportunity zones and make opportunity zones 3.0. We need to be able to make new energy opportunity. We need to be able to focus energy resources to develop right here in Eastern Kentucky.
Which is more than just coal, right?
Exactly. We have so much resources that we've got the resources, we need to deliver it. Our country is moving in a direction where energy will be a huge dominant factor going forward with data centers, with technology. Energy is what feeds it. We've got it. Let's deliver it.
Do you think there needs to be some federal regulation of data centers?
Well, I think data centers, first and foremost, needs to be something that is on a local level. AI and technology, it's already happening. With data centers and AI, we're already seeing it augmenting, whether it be work, the manufacturing process, creating new medical breakthroughs. This is already happening. It will be part of the 21st century. It will drive the 21st century. But local, with data centers, this needs to be decided on a local level. But there do need to be safeguards. And I think safeguards need to be around the ratepayers. Because ratepayers, I think, may be the ones that are most highly sensitive to this. Because we need to make sure that their electricity rates do not go up.
Because you mentioned that some of them are already paying triple digit for their rates. Let's talk a little bit more about affordability and the economy before we let you perhaps give some final thoughts. According to a recent Gallup poll, 55% of Americans say their financial situation is getting worse. That's higher than at any point in the last 25 years, higher than the 2008 financial crisis and higher than the pandemic, COVID-19. What does your plan look like when it comes to improving what Americans, folks in the 5th Congressional District, earn and keep?
And this comes down to bringing jobs. We need more jobs here in Eastern Kentucky because the cost of living it's hard to live. And I think that's what the gentleman in Pike County was sharing with me on my trip there, which was, he's thinking about moving his family because he can't afford to live in Eastern Kentucky. And so we need jobs. We need jobs of today. We need jobs that, whether it be additive manufacturing, focusing on careers that are growing, like aerospace manufacturing. We need to be focusing on regulatory reform that unleashes American energy so we can get people working in the energy sector again. But we need to also be focusing on the next generation. Let me tell you a story about a young kid.
10 seconds, please.
In Barberville, in Knox County. I created the organization that I founded that's creating opportunities for youth. He had an opportunity because of this to work with a dentist in Barberville. He told me last week that he has now decided to be a dentist, that he saw the need and he wants to be and live and work in Eastern Kentucky because he knows the needs and the challenges and he wants to be there to be a leader.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Kevin Smith, for being here with us this evening. Next Monday on Primary Eve, we will preview the big races and look for complete coverage of the primary campaign each weeknight on Kentucky Edition at 6:30 Eastern. I'm Renee Shaw. Thank you for being here. See you tomorrow night.
Quality programming on KET is brought to you by viewers